Hello and welcome to Firstpost Spotlight, where we bring you stories that matter to you from all across the world. From breaking news to the day's biggest controversies, we shed light on issues that shape our world. I'm Alison Lagrange, live from Durban, South Africa. Let's begin with the top headlines. US Vice President J.D. Vance meets Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni in Rome. This comes just a day after Meloni held talks with US President Donald Trump in Washington. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi speaks to Tesla's CEO and billionaire Elon Musk to discuss the potential for collaboration in technology and innovation. China denies giving any party in the Ukraine war lethal weapons after President Volodymyr Zelensky claimed that he had information that China was supplying arms to Russia. Uganda mulls new law to allow military tribunals to try civilians for certain offences, even after the practice was banned by the Supreme Court. And Japan enacts a bill to allow municipalities to give the go-ahead to shoot wild bears found in urban areas. The bill will take effect within the next 6 months. Hello and welcome. We begin with the latest from the Indian subcontinent, where New Delhi rejected Dhaka's comments on violence in India's West Bengal state. Responding to Dhaka's remark urging, quote-unquote, protection of Muslim community in India's West Bengal state, New Delhi said that Bangladesh's comments are unwarranted and part of its virtue signalling. India described these remarks as Bangladesh's disguised and disingenuous attempt to draw a parallel with India's concerns over ongoing persecution of minorities in Bangladesh. New Delhi said that criminal perpetrators of attack on minorities continue to roam free in the neighbouring country. India also pointed out that Bangladesh would do better focusing on protecting the rights of its own minorities. The diplomatic sparring between the two sides follows the violence in India's West Bengal state, which borders Bangladesh. At least 3 people have been reportedly killed in the violence, with hundreds of arrests made to curtail the tensions. The violence broke out in the Murshidabad district earlier this month, amid protests against a new law governing management of the Waqf properties. A report citing government sources say that initial investigation suggests alleged involvement of Bangladeshi miscreants in the violence. Bangladesh has denied these reports. Meanwhile, as Dhaka makes what India has called unwarranted remarks on West Bengal violence, the spotlight is on the spree of violence faced by Bangladeshi minority communities since the ouster of former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. Bangladeshi rights groups have claimed over 2,000 incidents of communal violence, which include attacks on 100 Hindu temples, arbitrary arrests and Hindu priests, as well as incidents of looting, arson and vandalism. More than 200 people are reported killed in this violence since August of 2023. Now, the attack on Bangladesh's minorities has drawn condemnation from across the world, including from rights groups as well as from the governments of the UK and the US. However, Bangladesh's interim leader, Muhammad Yunus, has called the issue of anti-minority violence as exaggerated. Yunus maintains the attacks on minorities in Bangladesh are more political than communal. Amid incidents of violence, as the diplomatic sparring between New Delhi and Bangladesh continues, it's important to make sense of which way the relations between the two neighbours are headed. Now, to answer that and more, we have with us Ambassador Baswati Mukherjee. She is a former diplomat joining us live from New Delhi. Ambassador Mukherjee, welcome to Firstpost Spotlight.
Thank you very much.
Now, India and Bangladesh ties have witnessed turbulence since the interim government under Muhammad Yunus took over after Sheikh Hasina's ouster. Could the latest comment by Dhaka trigger a bigger diplomatic row?
Well, I don't think the relations could go any lower unless they actually result in a armed conflict between the two countries. In this particular instance, it is very well known that Bangladeshi miscreants were pushed across the border uh, by, unfortunately, some elements of the local state government in West Bengal, and these miscreants uh, went on a killing spree, loot, arson, etc., to the extent that you had the sorry spectacle of Bengali Hindus who've gone through partition three times from 1904, from the time of the British colonialists, having to cross the river Ganga to find shelter on the other side of the river in their own country, uh, within their own state of West Bengal. Under those circumstances, it what happened in Murshidabad and Malda actually demonstrates that Bangladesh is actively interfering in the internal affairs of India, and in particular in the internal affairs of West Bengal. Not to forget that when Yunus went to China, he had the gall to offer India's entire northeast to the Chinese, saying that this northeast is ready for your economic development, etc., as if it is for him to offer the territorial integrity of India and its northeast to the Chinese. This is the extent to which Yunus has gone to try to provoke India, and we have not been provoked, but we have brought Yunus's attention in a dignified manner to tell him that during his short reign, illegal in my opinion, because there is no provision in the Bangladeshi constitution for such a long interim regime. There have been unprecedented attacks and lynchings, not just of Hindus and Hindu temples, but also of Buddhists, of Christians, and of Sufi shrines, which are all over Bangladesh, all over India for that matter. Sufi shrines which have been regarded as the symbol of Bengal's syncretic culture have been attacked for the first time under the so-called interim regime of Yunus. So I think that, as we have told him through our spokesperson, he would be better advised to put his own house in order and to stop these attacks, unprovoked attacks, which can only result in a full-fledged civil war in Bangladesh, which is already becoming a hub of jihadis and would lead Bangladesh inexorably to becoming a failed state, which would have grave implications for its neighbors, including India. We don't want Bangladesh to become a failed state or a jihadi hub, and for that, the responsibility for the moment, till he agrees to hold as fast as possible, and which has been demanded by all political parties in Bangladesh, free and fair elections with an elected government with whom we can do business, with whom we can talk. This is going from bad to worse day by day as we see it, Alison. So this is a matter which is of grave concern to the entire global community, including United States.
Right, Ambassador. And in the recent months, Bangladesh has witnessed growing unrest with radical Islamists targeting minorities, as you've mentioned, including the destruction of temples. Now, is this a move by the Yunus government to drive away attention from Bangladesh's internal crises?
It first of all demonstrates, Alison, that he is not in control of the internal law and order situation in Bangladesh. Because otherwise, a man who's been a Nobel laureate, a man who is an economist, he is actively participating in the destruction of what used to be one of the fastest growing economies in the region, the pride of South Asia. He is sitting there participating actively in its destruction. So I would say to Yunus, whom I know actually quite well, that as an economist, he is taking all the wrong actions. He is targeting prosperous business people of minority communities who were bringing prosperity to Bangladesh. He is making them feel extremely insecure. By doing so, he is actually endangering employment. He's lowering GDP, which will then affect the entire Bangladeshi population, because economic prosperity is the first sign that a country can live at peace with itself and with its minorities. And if the minorities have participated and
Hmm.
are participating despite the most adverse circumstances in bringing prosperity to Bangladesh, why is he going after them? He can easily rein in his jihadi forces. He can rein in the students. The students are his creation. Now, it would appear to me that maybe he doesn't have so much control over these jihadi forces that he has
Hmm.
unleashed on the minorities, and he is therefore participating actively
Right.
in the destruction of Bangladesh, in its economy, in its syncretic culture, and ultimately, where does that leave him? He's destroying himself. So he should take action
Right.
as soon as possible instead of trying to incite communal violence in the neighboring state of West Bengal. He should concentrate, as we've
Hmm.
told him, to set his own house in order.
Right. Ambassador, thank you very much for being with us on First Post Spotlight.
Thank you very much for having me. Thank you.
We now move on to West Asia, where Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman has sent his top minister to Iran just days before the second round of nuclear talks between Washington and Tehran. In a rare visit by a senior Saudi royal to the Islamic Republic, Saudi Arabia's defense minister Prince Khalid bin Salman Al Saud met Iran's Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei on Thursday. Now, according to Iranian state media, the Saudi defense minister also conveyed a message from Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman to the Iranian Supreme Leader. However, the details of this message were not revealed. The Saudi minister said that bilateral relations and topics of mutual interest were discussed. During the meeting, Khamenei emphasized that their relations should benefit both nations. Prince Khalid also met with Iran's President Masoud Pezeshkian, Iran's Armed Forces Chief of Staff Mohammad Bagheri, and other top officials. Now, the visit by the Saudi minister came amid growing fears of a potential conflict in the region if diplomatic efforts fail to resolve the soaring tensions between the United States and Iran. Riyadh has welcomed Iran's nuclear talks with the United States. The negotiations for a nuclear deal between the two countries began on the 12th of April. The meeting focused on avoiding the advancement of Iran's nuclear program. The US and Iran agreed to hold another round of talks on the 19th of April in Rome. However, after the first round of talks, Iran stated that enrichment of uranium as a part of its nuclear program is non-negotiable, as Washington called for a complete halt. Iran reluctantly agreed to hold talks with the US amid the rising pressure by President Donald Trump. US President has threatened to bomb Iran if it does not reach an agreement over its nuclear program. However, Iran has also said that it reserves the right to reject the final proposal. Meanwhile, Saudi media said that both Riyadh and Tehran will hold more meetings in the future. Both countries had agreed to re-establish ties in a 2023 deal that was brokered by China. Now, this agreement follows years of hostility that threatens stability and security in the Gulf region. So far, Saudi Arabia and other Gulf nations have been wary of being embroiled in Iran's conflict with Israel and the United States. But now, by sending a top minister to Tehran ahead of the second round of nuclear talks, is Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman mediating between the US and Iran? And keeping our focus on West Asia, where China is being accused of helping Yemen's Houthi rebels fight the United States and its allies. A Chinese military-linked satellite company is reportedly supplying Yemen's Houthi rebels with exclusive imagery to target US warships and international vessels in the Red Sea. Reports citing US officials also say that Washington has even asked Beijing to act against the company. But President Xi Jinping's government has ignored the American requests. The US officials accused Beijing of tacitly supporting the Houthi rebels, stating that the inaction is, quote, yet another example of China's empty claims to support peace. Without naming China, the United States warned that it will not tolerate anyone providing support to foreign terrorist organizations such as the Houthis. Referring to China's past condemnation of Houthi attacks in the Red Sea, the US also urged its allies to judge the Chinese Communist Party on their actions, not their empty words. Now, Iran-backed Houthi rebels started attacking commercial vessels in the Red Sea after Israel launched war against Hamas in Gaza in October of 2023. The Houthis maintain that they will continue to attack what they see as Israel or Israel-linked vessels until Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's government stops the war in Gaza. Between October of 2023 and April of 2024, Houthis have launched over 300 attacks on American and Israel-linked ships, as well as Israeli military targets. In response, the United States has escalated attacks against Houthi positions in Yemen. President Trump has warned that Houthis will be, quote-unquote, completely annihilated, and that it will get progressively worse for the Iran-backed rebels. The previous US administration under President Joe Biden had urged Beijing to use its leverage with Iran to rein in the Houthis. But Biden officials said that they saw no evidence that Beijing had done so. Now Donald Trump, who already has waged a trade war with China, has made tackling instability in the Red Sea a priority, amid concerns that the Houthis continue to pose a threat to the global economy. Chinese support for the Houthis has now added a new dimension to the state of conflict in the Red Sea. What remains to be seen is how US President Donald Trump tackles this latest challenge in West Asia. And for our last story, let's turn our attention to the Indo-Pacific. As Trump's tariff storm causes ripples around the world, the Philippines has raised an alarm over its $5.6 billion F-16 fighter jet agreement, with the US being in jeopardy. Now, this comes after Washington imposed retaliatory tariffs on Manila. Philippine ambassador to the US, Jose Manuel Romualdez, has voiced Manila's concerns, now emphasizing the urgent need for trade officials from both countries to find a way through this potential impasse. Romualdez has warned that the newly imposed US tariffs have dealt a severe blow to the Philippine economy and could render the country financially incapable of acquiring the advanced fighter jets. The Philippines is now facing a 17% tariff imposed by the US on all of its exports. Manila has warned that the proposed fighter jet deal could collapse under the weight of these tariffs. Recently, the US has approved a possible sale of 20 F-16 fighter jets to the Philippines amid the escalating tensions in the South China Sea. The F-16 acquisition is viewed by Manila as crucial strategic asset in the face of the growing Chinese aggression. With increased incursions by Chinese Coast Guard vessels within the Philippines' exclusive economic zone, the country urgently requires a modern, high-performance air combat system capable of rapid response and deterrence. The F-16 Block 70-72 variant, fitted with cutting-edge electronic beam radars, modern electronic warfare suites, and long-range air-to-air missiles, including the AMRAAM, represents a quantum leap in the Philippine Air Force's capabilities. Now, the platform would enable sustained aerial patrols over the Spratly Islands and the Scarborough Shoal, where China has militarized key reefs with anti-aircraft systems and runways. Beyond combat capabilities, the F-16 would serve as a strategic signaling tool, declaring the Philippines as an active, capable actor in the regional power dynamic, not merely a passive observer. Its high degree of interoperability with the US, Japanese, and Australian forces makes it a natural fit, within the broader regional security frameworks, such as the US-Philippines Mutual Defense Treaty. The F-16 jets have the potential to significantly enhance Manila's defense response across air, land, and sea. Ultimately, this acquisition is more than just a hardware purchase for the Philippines. With Trump's trade war looming on one hand and growing Chinese aggression in the South China Sea on the other, Manila is now faced by a twin challenge. It remains to be seen how the Philippines figures its way out of this crisis. And that's all we have on the show for today. We will see you again at the same time on Monday. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned to Firstpost.
From breaking news to the day's biggest controversies, shedding light on the world's top headlines, detailed analysis on the stories that matter the most to you. Catch it all on Spotlight at 6 p.m. India time and 12:30 GMT, only on Firstpost.
Hello and a very warm